We're now in Dcad Lesson 16A, dealing with 3D. I've opened our previous working drawing. You can see up here in the title bar D0614W1, which is our working drawing. And since we're going to be working in 3D, I'm going to hit L for layers. And I'm going to use my filter down here and just pull up, click on active and named layers only, just to eliminate or hide a bunch of layers that we don't need to look at. And what I'm going to do first and foremost is I'm going to select the main floor plan, because what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick and dirty 3D image or 3D model of the garage that we've designed. So I'm going to make the main floor plan the current active drawing, and I'm going to go down and just click on hide all. We don't need a bunch of other stuff up right now. Then I'm going to scroll down to layer 201 and make that my current active layer. Click OK. Now, the other thing I want to do is I'm going to be using colors in my 3D model, and the reason is it helps me distinguish what components of the drawing or the model I'm working on, because sometimes if you have very much showing, it can get a little confusing. So this is going to basically be an exterior model only at this point in time, because most of the time when I do 3D modeling of buildings, I'm just doing them for the exterior elevations and to model them to see how they look in 3 dimensions. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and just click on either 2D or 3D. 3D, they both toggle in between 2D and 3D. So I'm just going to click on the 2D one, and you see that it's opened up in 4 different windows, with the main window showing the main view. And I'm going to hold down Control and use my scroll button to zoom out just a little bit, so I can get a little better idea of what I'm dealing with here. And I'm going to, I think I'll just click on the green color over here in the green toolbar to draw my walls initially in 3D. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see over here that is the current color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, there's a couple ways we can do it. We can actually draw from corner to corner all the way around a line, or I could even just use the exterior wall line, because that is a rectangle. So either way, I think I'll just click on the wall line, and you can see that it selected the exterior wall line. And I'm going to hit N to duplicate that, and then right click and it'll snap it down to that handle. Now I'm going to call it my info box. I'm going to turn that wall line. First thing I'm going to do is turn it green, that new one, and hit the apply to selection over here in the color toolbox, and then you see it's turned it green in the info box, and it's still selected. You can see the points here in the drawing. So now next thing I want to do is I want to put that in layer 201. So I'm just going to, in my info box, I'm going to scroll on down to my layer, down to 201, and then click on that. And now that is in layer 201. Actually, I no longer need the floor plan because I have the outline, and that's good enough. So while I'm at it, I'm just going to hit L for layers and scroll up to layer 1 and turn out the light. Click OK. So now you can see here that we have our outline of the floor plan. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this line. You can see in the info box it's calling it a vector, so it's a line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this line out. Our garage ceiling height or plate height is 8 foot and 3/4 of an inch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit X for extrude, and get my cursor over here near a corner, any point actually, and just grab and just snap to it, hitting the period key, and that actually sets a point. You can see that down to here, you see that there's actually a point been added here. So I'm going to gravity move back to here to get my cursor on that, and I'm going to open up the point relative command, hitting the quotes mark, or actually the apostrophe, and I'm going to tab down and then tab down again, because we're going to be dealing with the z-axis. I want to pull this 8 feet and 3/4 of an inch toward me. So toward me is negative, and away from me is positive along in the z-axis. So I'm going to type into that dialog now minus 8 foot 0.75 inches, and I'm going to hit tab one time, and you can see here that right now the last point, it would actually move it from the last point. Well, I want it to go from my last cursor position. So, it'll move it relative to the last cursor position. I'm going to click on that and then click OK. And so you can see to set the point out there, I hit enter and it initiates the command. So now I have my 8 foot and 3/4 inch high walls everywhere. So here you can see over here in the info box, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on where that initial line was, and you can see that one's a vector. So I'm just going to hit delete. I no longer need that line, and I click on this box, and it's calling it a grid. You can see an info box. It's calling it a grid. So a grid is usually composed of a bunch of planes, essentially. And so I can click up here on the shading, and I want it in, let me go down to OpenGL shading, and I want medium quality, and I'm going to click OK, and you can see that it's actually darkened. It's a box. I can go up here and I'm going to unshade it for now, because the next thing I'm going to do is the roof. So I'm going to click on over here on up in the main toolbox, wireframe, and it'll just give me a quick dialog. I just click OK, and I'm back to wireframe mode. So what we've created so far is sort of a box without a top or a bottom. It's just essentially the walls. So since our long axis is running left to right, and let me verify that. Well, actually, I'll just do a couple quick dimensions. This dimension here is 24. I know the other one's 22, but I'm going to do it anyway just to make sure. So we're 22 feet deep and 24 feet long. I'm going to hit Control Z a couple of times to get rid of those dimensions. And so we're going to run our ridge along the long axis. And I'm going to click on the blue color, so I'm going to make my roof a different color than the walls. I'm going to hit L for layers, and then I'm going to scroll on down using my scroll bar here in the layer options, and scroll on down to 230, because that's our roof planes layer. So I'm going to make that the current active layer, and then click OK. So we have 2 foot eave overhangs, and we also have 2 foot barge overhangs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a plane here, and our roof pitches at a 4 and 12. So I'm going to hit P for plane, and for right now I'm going to just make it just really simple. I'm going to just right click and snap to this one corner, and then right click and snap to my next corner. Now I'm going to hit the point relative, and into 0, X, I want X dimension, I want 0. Y dimension, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up 24. So if it's 4 and 12, it would be an 8 and 24. So I'm going to type in 24, and then in the Z dimension, I'm going to type -8. So I want to come toward me 8 feet. So -8, and hit enter. And now I'm going to go over here to this first corner that I set a point in, gravity move using the comma, call up my point relative command again, hitting the apostrophe, and my dimensions are already in there still from the last entry, so it's still going to be 24 up on the Y direction and -8 in the Z, and let's click OK. And so you can see that, and it's kind of rubber band at this point, you can see that I have my 4 points, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now since I've only set the 4 points here, I can go ahead and click on my scroll button or hit enter. And so I just hit enter. It makes it easy. And so I have one plane that's sloping at a 4 and 12 pitch, or an 8 and 24 in our case. So since I've just gone to the corners, I still need to deal with things like eave overhangs and barge overhangs. So the first thing I'm going to do is extend my barge overhangs out. I'm going to select the left 2 points of my roof plane, and you can see they're gone dark, so they've been selected. I'm going to grab the snap and set a point using the period command, and I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to call up my point relative, and I'm going to type in -2 because I want a 2-foot barge overhang. 0, and then hit tab, hit 0 again, and hit enter. So you can see that it's brought it out to the left 2 feet. I want to do the same thing on the right side. So I'm going to select those 2 points, get my cursor near either one of those points, right click and set a point using the period key, and call up my point relative using the apostrophe, and this time instead of -2 I want just 2. That's +2, so it'll take it to the right. Hit enter, and you can see that it's taking it out a couple of feet. So now what I need to do is, and you can kind of, let me pull this down so we can look at some of the other, pull the info box out of the way so we can look at some of the other windows in this. So this is what they're calling the front view. It's actually, for us, it's the top view, but they want to call it the front view, so that's fine. So I'm going to just hold down Control, and I'm going to use my scroll button to roll out just a little bit so you can kind of see where we are. So you can see our 2-foot barge overhang on each end. So now I'm going to click back on this window because that's the window I want to deal with. So what I need to do now is I need to move this guy 2 feet down and 8 inches away from me, or 8 inches in. So I'm going to go to where my handle's located, get close to it, and hitting the comma to gravity move, and I'm going to hit M for move. And now using my point relative again, on the X dimension I want 0. On the hit tab on the dimension Y, I want -2. I want to bring it down 2 feet, and then hit tab again. And on the dimension Z, I want 8 inches. I want it to go away from me 8 inches. So I enter in 8 inches, and then just hit enter. So now, here on the side window, which is the lower of the 3 here, I'm going to scroll out just a little bit using my holding down Control and using my scroll button. You can see that it's coming right along, sloping down, and it's extending out 2 feet. So back to my main window here. So that's one of our roof planes almost. So now what I need to do is I need to mirror that along the y-axis, the vertical axis. So I'm going to set a handle on one of our wall corners because that's just an easy way to do it. Go over here to Set Selection Handle, click on it, right click at the upper left corner, the lower left corner of the top of the wall. Boy, that's hard to say. Okay, right click on it, hit my scroll button to initiate the command setting my handle. Now I'm going to hit the backslash key, and what I'm going to do is go over here to my mirror dialog and click on that and click on the Y because I want to mirror along the Y-axis, the vertical axis. So when I come back over here, you can see it once I get to that opposite corner, which is above, and right click on that. I now have, and you can see over here in the side window that they're definitely crossing each other. Now I can just hit escape and unselect. So that's kind of a bizarre looking roof. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change my color to a red. I'm going to make it that fourth one from the left. I like it's a bright one, bright red, stands out pretty well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to this, over to my RV toolbox, and where it says surface intersection, which is the first one up from the info box little icon, and click on that. Surface intersection will show you where surfaces are intersecting, just like it says. So once that command is initiated, you go down here and look in the lower left-hand corner, and it says set one point on each surface. So I'm going to right-click on this one, and I'm going to right-click on that one, and you can see it's drawn a red line right where those surfaces intersect. So now I can just click on one of these guys and just click near it, and it'll select both of those points, and right-click and bring it on down, and just right-click on the red line there. Hit escape. Now I can go ahead and get rid of my red line. I can just do a selection rectangle and just make sure it's just the red line I've selected. I can pull up my info box. I can see that is red, and so now I can just click on the window again and hit delete to delete it. And so now the only thing I have left to do here is click on this other roof plane and select both of those points and right click on one of them and drag it down to the new ridge of the roof, and just right click and it'll snap to it and put it right there. So let me hit escape and select it, and so you can see it's starting to look a little bit like an actual building. So what I'm going to do here is just for fun, I'm going to click on the on the shading, and I'm still OpenGL and all of that stuff. I'm click OK, so it's shaded, and now I'm going to click on the set view by drawing center line. This is all. That's a bizarre title for a command, but it's what they titled it, so it's good enough. So I'm going to left click on that, and I'm going to move my little camera around so you can see this guy is kind of from different angles. You know, looks like we have some holes there in the gable, though. We're going to have to fix that. So I'm just going to hit escape now, so it goes back to where it was. And now I'm going to click on the wireframe and click OK. So now it's all wireframe again. So now I need to take care of my gable ends because, and this is a truss roof, and normally trusses have what they call a 1/4-inch butt cut. You know, it's just on the outside of the plate line. What the butt cut does is allows it keeps the bottom quarter of the truss coming to a very sharp point where it interfaces with the upper quarter of the truss. It's kind of hard for them to make those feather out nicely, so they just put a 1/4-inch butt cut on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the walls again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side to the toolbox and click on Explode. And when I explode that, what it does is now you look in your info box and it says Multiple. So I'm going to just click somewhere in the drawing and click on one of these guys, and now it's calling it a plane. So what that did is it exploded our grid into 4 separate planes. So now what I want to do is I want to see where this plane is going to interface with our roof planes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these top of the wall points, get near one, and just right click and hit my point relative. And I want X to be 0. I want Y to be 0. I'm going to turn that to 0. And I want Z to be, let's just call it -8. That should get me high enough. -8. And hit enter because I want it to come toward me. So now I'm looking back over here at the side view. And it's actually on its side, which is kind of bizarre. But you can see that it's well above the ridge, and that's what I'm after here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just click in the drawing. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our surface interface again, our surface interface intersection, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to right click on one on my wall and right click on one of my roof planes, and you can see that it's drawn a line. It's the slope of the roof. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So surface intersection, click on that, click just near the one and near the other, and you can see that it's done it again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my wall, and I'm going to set a point right here at its former corner, at the corner where it used to be, and just click on that line somewhere, and then right click near the top of the wall there, and it snaps and puts a point there. So now this one here, I'm going to just right click on it, and I'm just going to get it down kind of close and right click at the top of the wall. Now this is getting kind of weird looking, but I'm just going to right click at this remaining top point here, and then right click to snap it to where those 2 red lines intersect. And you can see that I just created a wall and gable at the same time. So this is just basically one wall. So I'm going to hit escape to unselect, and I'm just going to create a selection rectangle, and that'll select both of those red lines. And you can see it over here in the info box that it's turned red. So now I'm going to hit delete because I don't need those anymore. And the easy way to duplicate the other side is just to actually duplicate, make a copy of it. So I don't have to go through all the lines and all that again. So I'm just going to right click at the bottom corner here, and oops, selected the wrong wall, so I'm going to hit enter, and that selects the correct wall. And now I'm going to hit N to duplicate and just bring it over here to the bottom and right click so it snaps into place. And we still got a wall line there, so I'm going to click on that, hit delete. And so now we have actual gables. And so I'm going to click on the shaded drawing so we can on the shading so we can get a little better look at it. And so now when I rotate this thing around, you don't see any holes where the gable used to be, right? Okay, so I'm just going to hit escape and then go back to wireframe mode and click OK. So this is a pretty thin roof. It's just a plane, you know. So in order to extrude this roof out to where the thickness it needs to be at to look right for us, there's a couple of ways that we can approach this. Since we know what our trusses are, they're basically 2x4 trusses, and we have 5/8 inch roof sheathing on top of it. And I never draw the shingles; I just deal with the roof sheathing itself. I'm gonna hit L for layers, and I'm gonna call up our section drawing, layer 75, because that should give us some idea of what we're doing here. Click OK and hit Control W. So here's our section drawing down here. Now, section drawing has, if we zoom up on one of the eaves, we can see what we have here as far as height is concerned. And so I'm not going to worry about the actual depth of the fascia right now for the modeling. What I am going to do is just to get an idea of how far this roof is going, what the total thickness at slope is. I'm going to hit V for vector, and right click right here at the back of my behind my fascia, hit H for orthogonal mode and bring it on over, and then click up above a little bit and hit enter. So my little red line is sticking up through the roof sheathing a little bit. Now I'm going to hit H for orthogonal mode to go out of it, toggle out. Now I'm going to hit E to trim to the roof sheathing. So now I can find out how long this line is. So in the info box, just by clicking on it, and that is the red line you can see in the info box, and it's telling me that the total length for that line is 0.3623. So that's 0.3623. So all I have to do is duplicate that. So before I do that, I'm just going to scoot this guy out of the way. So I'm going to leave that for now in case I forget what that measurement is. 0.3623. I'm going to move my info box out of the way, click on the drawing somewhere, and hit Control W. And so now my roof planes, I'm going to duplicate those in the actual roof layer, which is 231. Hit L for layers, and 231 is the 3D roof. So that's going to be my new active layer. Okay, and click OK. So now I'm going to click on this one and then select the other one also and hit N. And you can see it's already got the handle here at the corner, and just right click there and it'll duplicate it right over it. Now I'm going to pull up my info box and change the layer of those planes to 231 for the 3D roof. And I'm going to call up layers, hit L for layers, and I'm going to get rid of, or at least hide, the roof planes, because I don't want to extrude them. I just want to extrude the actual 3D roof. So I'm going to turn its lights out and then click OK. And so you can see that we're still selected there and everything. And if I could not remember what that 0.3623 is, I could zoom up, hit Z for zoom, and go over here to this red line, which is actually no longer there because it was in the roof line. Doesn't matter. Control W, and so I'm going to just hit X now, and I could have written it down, I guess. And I'm going to right-click on one of the selected points of the roof, and actually you can either right click or I hit the period, either one works, and put the point. You can see you have a point set, and I'm going to get back over there and gravity and move, hitting the comma, and now I'm going back to point relative again. Use point relative a lot, and I'm 0 in the distance x, hit tab, 0 in the distance y, hit tab, and I'm going to go minus 0.3623, and then hit, because I want it to come toward me, so that's in the minus direction. Then I hit enter, and hit enter again. And so now you can see that our roof actually has thickness. Zoom up on it, and you can see that we actually have a thickened roof there. I'm going to hit Control W, hit Escape. I'm going to go to Layers, hit L for Layers, and I'm going to hide the section drawing, Layer 75. Just turn out the lights, click OK. And so now I'm going to save. Actually, I'm hit the save icon over here, and I'm going to shade it again so we can see how it looks with a thickened roof. Click OK, and I'm going to go over here to Set View by Drawing Center, and I actually have an additional one over here. So I'm just going to click on one of them and just kind of move this around a little bit, and you see that the roof actually has some thickness now. So sometimes what I'll do, if I want to see how this really looks, because this is sort of the helicopter view, I will select this and hit Control C to copy it to the clipboard, open up a brand new blank drawing, and hit Control V to put it in. And now I can hit R to rotate, and hit Tab, 90, Tab, 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 Tab again, and then I'm going to use the arrow to go up to the x-axis and hit Enter. So now it looks a little more normal. We're sort of still in a helicopter, but we're getting there. So now I'm going to hit Escape, and I'm going to want to do shading. Again, I want I don't even know how to pronounce that. Go medium quality shading. Click OK, and zoom up a little bit using my. Now try this again. Okay, now let me shade it again and see if it maintains it. No, it didn't. So what I got to do is I have to go to Q and to General. I'm sorry, to View, in the View tab, and enable graphics acceleration, and click Apply, and then click OK. So now when I shade it, click OK. Click on Set View by Drawing Center, and now it'll maintain the shaded view. Now, let's hit Escape, and we can look at it in perspective. Because this is the View toolbox up here. Right now, we're looking at it as a perspective as if we were 1,000 feet away from it. So if I say select that and type in 150 feet, 150, and hit Enter, it'll have more perspective. So now you'll see. Let me zoom out a little bit. It'll give it a little more perspective, or hit Escape. If I type just 100, it'll give it even more, like as if we were 100 feet away. And let me scroll out here just a little bit. And of course, if I set a point there, if I type 50, it will be even closer yet, even more perspective. So you can see that gives us the drama, the dramatic effect of having more perspective, as if we were up closer to the building. So that's a little bit too much. So I'm going to go back to 150, I think, because that's a more normal view. So so you can save this one if you want. A lot of times I'll use these to analyze shape. But the bottom line is that's how the basic 3D steps to create a basic, simple 3D drawing of our garage. You notice there's no openings or windows or doors, and I'm not showing any of that at this point. This is just strictly a very simple, basic model. So that concludes Dcad. I'm going to go ahead and close. I'm not even going to save this one. Let me File, close, and close this one. I don't want to save it. And I hit escape, and I'll save this one more time just to make sure that we have it there. And that concludes our Dcad Lesson 16A 3D.